Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast with me, your coach, Julia Seal, where we explore the puzzle of whole-being happiness as professional women in our midlife, how to coach ourselves and live into the best version of ourselves, resilient, creative, and thriving, no matter what. Welcome to the first episode of 2022. I am so looking forward to spending this year with you. This episode is all about liminal space, transitions, uncertainty, and change. It's a little longer than usual because I've been thinking about this space for all of us all the way through January. And we're right in the midst of change in the world right now, aren't we? We're going from 21 to 22, from what was our normal to the pandemic's new normal. And of course, as professional women in our midlife, we're transitioning from one version of ourselves to another. And I hope that this episode tempts you into not rushing this transition time, but rather to stay here a while, to rest in it, to settle in it. Perhaps I can lure you into even wallowing and delighting in it, to change your relationship with the unknown, with uncertainty, and all the changes in your life ahead, your body, your skin, your brain, your relationships, your purpose. You might already be navigating this gently, using the 3 meditations I recorded in the transition between 2021 and 2022, especially the one on embracing the space of the liminal. If not, you'll find these meditations on the podcast, or otherwise, everything for your midlife whole-being happiness is at Happiness-Matters.coach. The liminal, where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our old world left behind, while we are not yet sure of the new existence. This is Franciscan Friar Richard Rowe's description. It's the state of being between times, an ambiguous moment when you don't know who you are about to become or what the future may hold. It's the place of threshold, in transition, in the middle, the time between 2 worlds, or 2 places, or 2 phases. It's also described as the deep sense of ambiguity and disorientation that occurs in the middle stage of a rite of passage, when participants no longer hold their pre-ritual identity, but have not yet begun the transition to the status they'll hold when the rite is complete. And during the rite's liminal stage, the participants stand at the threshold, on the edge, the boundary between their previous identity and the new. New Year, actually, is a great example of a liminal time, the in-between time of 2 years. And January is named after the ancient Roman god Janus. He is the god of new beginnings, time, thresholds, gates, doorways, arches, and passages. He's depicted with 2 faces, one looking backwards and one looking forwards. And it's also the English translation of Bardo from Tibetan Buddhism, something you might have heard me talk about already, the intermediate transitional state between different states of consciousness, the state between death and what's next. So the liminal is the time when our normal life, our past selves are suspended, and the new, our future selves, are still in creation. Well, what can I say? Welcome to the liminal of 2022 and what's next beyond the pandemic. And welcome to midlife, the greatest liminal state facing us right now. Turning 50, the years around menopause, this is a huge phase of change that we're lucky enough to go through as women. Just like puberty and pregnancy, our bodies and brains go through profound changes. And these physical changes spark yet more change, deeper, more long-lasting shifts, emotional, mental, spiritual. So much change, actually, that your midlife is the most incredible opportunity to use as a metamorphosis experience for yourself. It's no wonder it's called a midlife crisis or middle pause or your second adolescence, midolescence, or your next phase. Your very being is supporting you to do this. The biochemical and physical changes, as well as midlife's big events like death and divorce, illness, retirement, empty nests, aging parents, and all the emotions that go with them, actually invite you into the midlife liminal space, the uncertainty, the discomfort, the ambiguity, this disorientation, and the magic that exists betwixt and between. Now, what makes the liminal so uncomfortable? Typically, we don't like this ambiguity. We find the unknown unpleasant. We find uncertainty pretty uncomfortable, and we avoid it. We busy our way through it. We try to ignore it. We try to fix what we're feeling with work, with food, with alcohol, with Netflix, anything to make these feelings go away. And this is very normal. Our brains do not like uncertainty or change at all. You might want to listen to 2 earlier podcasts where I deep dive into our brains on change, episodes 2.2 and 2.11, and I'll link all past episodes that I refer to in the show notes for this episode. But basically, our brains crave predictability, certainty, a state of homeostasis. We're pretty much scared of uncertainty. All our survival fears kick in, and anxiety and stress go through the roof. Instead, I am inviting you into embracing the liminal, to learn to love the unknown, to tap into the magic of being present to the formation of your future self, to wallow in the joy of you in creation, to dance with life itself. It's a topic I'm going to keep coming back to in the months ahead, but today I've got some ideas of how to start doing this, how to begin to rest, settle, wallow and dance in the discomfort of change as the bardo of your midlife unfolds. So how to wallow and dance? Well, the first tip is to rethink this time for yourself, to reframe how you're thinking about change, uncertainty, your transitional spaces, this liminal. If you are interested in the concept of reframing and how it works, please listen to my Q&A episode 1.5, where I go into why it's such a useful tool in learning how to coach our whole-being happiness. But for today, let's look at 3 different ways to look at what you might be going through and why you might choose not to hurry your transitional journey. And then how you can reassure your fear-averse, change-hating primitive brain. The first of these is an analogy I used right at the beginning of Series 1 as part of my 6 core Coach Yourself episodes. It's the river of misery in Hades. And the episode, if you're interested in listening back, is 1.5, What's Stopping Your Happiness and Success. And here I begin the coaching process of mapping out your journey between where you are today, point A, and where you want to be, point B. Looking at the journey in between these two and at happiness traps and obstacles you find along the way. The liminal space is this journey between the two, the in-between. Let's go back in time, not to Janus's ancient Rome, but to ancient Greece instead, to Hades and the river of misery, and a myth that speaks directly to our common views on change. The river of misery is described in the Greek underworld where souls go after death. Once we die, we need to safely cross from the mortal world to the underworld, And to get there, we need to cross the river Acheron, also known as the river of pain, of woe, the river of misery. And if we don't successfully cross the river of misery, our souls are left stranded on the bank, left to wander aimlessly for the rest of time. On the other side of the bank is the entrance to Hades, guarded by Cerberus, the triple-headed dog, along with the judges of the underworld who decide where to send newly arrived souls. Plus, we also have to get by those scaries who live at the front entrance to Hades. There's anxiety, fear, need, agony, and discord, to name just a few. So to get to point B, the realm of your future self, and the end of this liminal transition, you have to cross the river of misery. You have to go through pain and misery and beyond any number of scary obstacles. I really don't mean to put you off. I'm using the story, The River of Misery, to explore how we typically think of change. Change is difficult. Change is hard. So we don't want to change. It is no wonder we don't take the first step into change, or that we fight being in the liminals so much. And why, since our actual brain wiring is designed to keep us safe and resist change, it's why we don't want to jump straight into the river of misery. Truly, if you take this view at the start of your journey knowing what's ahead, why would you ever take the first step? But here's another way to look at this gap between where you are now and where you want to be, this liminal transition time. Buddhist philosophy looks deeply into our tendency to resist change rather than getting good at it and embracing it. Buddha's observations on human life start with the very idea of us resisting change, the Four Noble Truths, the four basic truths about our human life, four facts of reality. If we resist these truths, if we resist reality, it leads to our unhappiness. Accepting these truths, accepting reality, leads to our happiness. And the first of these is the truth of suffering. Now, suffering is a strong word for most of us. It brings to mind intense physical and emotional pain and trauma. But in this case, it also means the suffering we create for ourselves, emotional suffering. We create suffering for ourselves when we resist reality, when we want things to be different, when we resist change, when we resist the reality that everything changes all the time, when we resist the impermanence of everything, when we make change a bad thing, and when we resist the liminal. And the truth of impermanence means that change is always happening. Everything is always changing, all the time. Think about it. Night changes into day, and day changes into night. The weather changes through the year, even through the day. People around you are changing all the time. Your children change and grow up. Your friends move away. And luckily for us, politicians come and go. You're changing all the time. I'm changing all the time. Your body got fit or sluggish during the pandemic lockdown. You're getting older and more wrinkled. I'm tired at night and then refreshed in the morning. You hear something on this podcast and you're different in the next moment. You are always moving forward, and you are constantly embracing change every day. But what's not seen is that in so many instances, you are good at change already. So often you're accepting of change. You're already embracing the change inherent in life. You're actually crossing the river of misery with no difficulty at all. Now, one of the best ways I've come to understand why discomfort is so normal and yet so resistible, and then how to work with the suffering, is to use the work done in organizational and relationship systems coaching, something called edge work, that I introduced back in episode 132, called Discomfort Change Equals Happiness. Now, there's a clue. And in that episode, I go into much more detail about the discomfort of change, change management and your brain in change, as well as discomfort as being the currency to your dreams, the currency you need to pay Chiron, the river guide, to cross the river of misery. So edge work is something I use in my work and employee engagement and as a team coach to help people step into change as part of a change management process. And the edge is the dividing line between where you are now and where you're going next, between the status quo and the change, or another way of looking at it, between the known and the unknown. The edge is the horizon of change that you can't see over. And edges are part of the process of life. Anytime you try something new, a new environment, a new idea, a new thought, a new behavior, a new expectation of ourselves, you are stepping over and crossing the edge of what you know. And there are many ways to cross the edge. Coaching is all about how to do it in ways that best serve you. But today, it's not about hurrying to get over and cross that edge, but to choose to stand on the threshold, the cliff edge, to hang out with Janus in the archway between your current self and your future self, and embrace what it means to be here, to embrace fully what this can bring to your whole being happiness. My last invitation into the resting, settling, wallowing, and dancing in the liminal builds on this idea of discomfort being the currency to your dreams. And again, if you want to hear more about this idea, listen back to episode 125 called Your Next Step, Evolution. So from seeing the liminal as the river of misery to an edge to hang out on to this, a unique opportunity for you to evolve yourself. Yes, as in evolution. We mostly think of evolution as the scientific theory used by biologists to explain how living things have developed from earlier forms during the history of Earth, how they have come to be the way they are, and our own evolution as humans, as Homo sapiens sapiens, where we've come from and how we've developed. But I'm talking about self-evolution in this lifetime, now here in your midlife, in the space of the liminal. This idea is based on the work of the Hungarian-American psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, who was one of the most influential thinkers in the science of happiness until his death late last year. He was particularly interested in evolving ourselves, our conscious evolution as individuals. His book, The Evolving Self, A Psychology for the Third Millennium, explores the idea that our genetically programmed behaviors that were once essential to our survival are now actually threatening this survival. And this includes our obsession with food and sex, our addiction to pleasure, our excessive rationality, and our tendency to focus on the negative. He looks at the primal dissatisfaction we have with life, our unhappiness as inherent to humankind, and how this can spur us forward to keep on recreating ourselves. He offers us the compelling idea that becoming an active, conscious part of the evolutionary process can give our lives meaning and joy, and at the same time, profoundly impact the human species in the future. And it's this attitude, this decision to become an active, conscious part of your very own evolutionary process. That's my invitation to you here today. To step into the liminal spaces, the transitions that you're encountering in your midlife with this purposeful and intentional attitude, embracing them, and to rest here, settle here, wallow here, delight here. To rethink this time for yourself, to reframe how you're thinking about change, uncertainty, transitional spaces, and the liminal. As I said earlier, it's a topic we'll be exploring deeply. We'll hang out in the liminal together long enough to build courage and resilience, expand inner power, and delight in midlife whole being. But yes, it's not comfortable. So other than these 3 ways to shift how you might be thinking about the transition of your life, let's keep reassuring your fear-averse, change-hating primitive brain, the part of you that fears and resists change. So 3 more ideas for you today to soothe yourself so that you can embrace the liminal. Firstly, please use my most recent meditation. That's why I recorded it at the start of the year, when the world's media, your friends and family, were enthusiastically pushing you to think about your New Year's resolutions. It's a meditation to soothe your soul, to soothe your animal body that's awash with anxiety and fear in times of change. What if you could take these 10 minutes regularly throughout your day, throughout your week, before sleep, just as you wake up? What if you could let yourself hang out in the liminal, to be in between versions of you, your past self, your current self, your future self, in between time, in between space, in between as the sun moves through the sky, the moon rises, the planets shift, the winds change direction, the earth's tectonic plates move. To let the superficial and the unnecessary wash away, to let what needs to fall apart break and shatter, and to let yourself rest with the way that your life is right now. There are also several other meditations for you. There's 2 if you're really new to meditation, one for stress and anxiety in particular, another for when you're feeling raw and shredded, and then 2 on self-compassion and loving kindness. And you will find them all on the podcast or on the website Happiness-Matters.coach. There's even a YouTube playlist on Happiness-Matters.coach. And if you email me directly, I can also send you the MP3 files. Then on the podcast in Series 1, I have recorded an entire mini-series about dealing with negative emotions and how to feel better. The journey starts at episode 117 and runs through to episode 132. So you can put the podcast on continuous play from 117 and go from there. There's a very special episode in the middle on how to actually process your negative emotions, how to truly feel them all the way through you until they release. See these episodes as a gift from me to you, as a safe haven in the storm, a respite from the storm in your head, and a place to rest while you're in your own river of misery. And the last idea is fun, a step into delight. And it introduces us into one of our most powerful tools for thriving in the liminal, our creativity. I talk much more about this through my midlife jigsaw puzzle analogy, especially with Happiness Month coming up in March. But for now, let's play with today's insights. See if you can, throughout your days, notice transitional spaces. Notice the places where the ancient god Janus hangs out. Look for tunnels, arches, gateways, clocks, passages, thresholds, doorways, an atrium. Lift your head to beauty, my friends. See if you can spot these places. Notice what they're inviting you into. Notice the in-between space. Why not even take a quick photo of them and send them to me so we can have some fun with this together? And I'm doing this right now as I'm recording this, looking out through the arch of my window above my laptop, out to where the mountain and an expanse of cloudless blue is calling to the freedom in my soul. And that's it for today. As a reminder, if you want to play more in the liminal space, if you want to journey with me in creating your midlife whole-being happiness, then let's coach. We can start with 8 weeks to deal first with what's absolutely unbearable for you. Perhaps it's your love relationship as Valentine's Day approaches. Let me walk with you to explore how to manage your brain, how to entrench basic happiness habits, and how to start rebuilding your life as you delight in the liminal. It's time together to explore your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, your relationship to the world, and your purpose for being here. It's as easy as booking a meet and greet with me on my website, Happiness-Matters.coach. See the yellow puzzle piece right at the top? Click on that, and let's see each other through Janus's Zoom doorway. finishing Franciscan Friar Richard Rowe's description on the liminal, where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our old world left behind, while we are not yet sure of the new existence. That's a good space where genuine newness can begin. Get there often and stay as long as you can by whatever means possible. This is the sacred space where the old world is able to fall apart and a bigger world is revealed. May you be happy. May you be free. There is no better time to coach together. Bye for now. I'm off into the joy of today's unknown.
Thank you for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast, coaching your whole-being happiness in midlife. To join Julia for more of her midlife conversations, subscribe for free to her coaching notes by email and to this podcast. Search for Happiness Matters in Midlife to find us in your favourite podcast player app. Once you're subscribed, both of these will be delivered to your device automatically. To find all of this, click the subscribe menu of our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. And thanks again for listening.